but nearly hits Cam. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. This session of Hyperforce was shaping up to be really, really good. As a matter of fact, it was going to be mega good. No, it was going to be super mega good. Let's find out why by taking a look at the 18th session of Hyperforce, Legendary Assistance. After Jack and Chloe learned about the Alliance's 5-stage plan from the janitor that was arrested at City Hall, they return to the time ship and tell the other Rangers about it. Jack feels like things are finally coming to a head, that the Alliance is getting ready to make their final moves. The next stage is called Armada, so Eddie asks Alpha if he knows anything about Armada. Of course, Alpha does, especially having access to the historical database, and he explains that the Armada was a force of alien ships that attempted an invasion of Earth in late 2014, stopped by the Super Megaforce Rangers and a team-up of legendary Rangers from across time and dimensions. Jack theorizes that the Alliance might try to tell the Armada that they have a bigger prize for them. Eddie asks if there's any single individual that they could contact for information about the Armada without contacting the Super Megaforce Rangers as a team and possibly interfering with history all the more. And it just so happens, Alpha tells them about Orion, the silver Super Megaforce Ranger. His home world of Andrasia was invaded and basically destroyed by the Armada on their way to Earth. He managed to take an Armada cruiser and follow them to Earth to get his revenge. As Alpha makes preparations to jump them to Andrasia in the year 2014, Marv wonders what their cover story should be, what they should tell Orion. They end up deciding that it's probably better to go with the truth with this traumatized lone survivor than to risk being caught in a lie and losing his trust altogether. Of course, I kind of figured that he would have already seen the Quantum Ranger in his visions of auxiliary Rangers and would have understood a little bit about what Time Force was already, but they decided not to go that direction. Of course, making a lie all the more complicated is the fact that Chloe is still morphed. Vesper points out that she's been spending an awful lot of time in her suit lately. Might be bad for her skin, need to get some sunlight. Chloe says that's a good point, but it's not changing her mind today. She does need to cover up the suit, so Marv gives her Lena's trench coat. And that trench coat had already been destroyed. I distinctly remember Malika saying that it was completely shredded, and having Lena scream that Chloe now owed her a new one. Oh well. They jump to Andrasia sometime in early 2014, I would estimate. Alpha detects a life sign on the beach and teleports the Rangers over there. Marv sees some footsteps in wet sand, and they follow them to the ocean where they see a man spearfishing. The Rangers decide to investigate the area first, but they only see Orion. Except for Eddie, who somehow gets completely turned around and doesn't see anything at all. By the way, on Super Megaforce, Orion was played by Cameron Jibo, and on this session of Power Rangers Hyperforce, Orion was played by Cameron Jibo, our guest star for this week. Marv says that they should approach very gently and take this very carefully. Traumatized lone survivor once again. So, of course, Vesper runs up to Orion and starts yammering at him in English. She does manage to eventually activate a translation matrix inside her programming, allowing her to talk to and understand Orion. She licks her morpher to send that matrix to the other Rangers, who explain that they are Time Force officers that are here to help. Marv asks Orion if he knows anything about the Armada. Orion explains that they just destroyed a large portion of his homeworld, so yeah, he's kind of familiar. He says the Armada has thousands of ships and robotic soldiers, and their ships are powered by some kind of mysterious energy that is capable of destroying worlds. Vesper humbly and truthfully apologizes that they cannot save Andrasia, but says that Orion can help them save all of time. They need to get readings on an Armada ship. Orion explains that the world is still patrolled by a few stragglers. Vesper tells Orion that his spear is twitching, but he misses a guppy. Eddie decides to finally introduce himself by walking up to Orion, thrusting his trident down into the water, spearing 2 fish on each prong, handing those fish to Orion and saying, "Hi, I'm Eddie." At Eddie's request, Orion says that he will cook the fish for the group later. Orion tries to remember how the Armada ships that are still there patrol, but he can't really bring the details to mind. All he's really sure of is that they seem to be looking for something in the rocks. The Rangers want to see these rocks, see what they might be able to detect from them, if there's any special elements that might be of interest to either the Armada or the Alliance. So Orion takes them to the rock quarry. At this point, it starts raining very, very hard, thunderstorming, basically. Marv is thankful to Orion for his help so far and asks Orion what he would like from them in return. He says he just wants a way off of this planet to pursue the Armada. Marv starts to offer him a ride, but then Jack reminds him that they cannot change history. It starts raining even harder at this point, so they all run into a cave and Eddie starts a fire. Vesper has a plan, and no, I mean, it's a serious plan. Actually, thinking about it in this session, even though she still does have her goofy moments, Vesper was actually much more serious this time around. This plan can help Orion get his revenge on the Armada and possibly prevent the Alliance from getting their hands on the ships. If they can get their hands on one Armada ship, Vesper thinks that she can infect it with the Venjix virus, which has lain dormant inside her this entire time. Marv is now thinking like a Time Force officer and worries about changing history. However, Chloe brings up a good point. The Alliance is already trying to do that by taking the ships in the first place. Marv then notices that Eddie's been kind of sulky today, and even now is just sitting by the fire alone with not talking to anyone. Marv walks over and asks him if he's alright, but Eddie at first tries to say that they just need to focus on their mission right now. Jack and Orion also have a chat, basically about how Orion has just barely been keeping himself alive, but he is training himself how to fight, and he did manage to take down an Armada ship. However, the guards got to that one too quickly. And here's one of those sillier moments that I talked about from Vesper, though, again, it is going to fold into her having a more serious arc this week, and I will explain that as the session goes on. She walks over to Jack and Orion and dramatically flounces in front of them, saying that she knows exactly what the two of them are talking about, and she is very sorry, but things are just never going to work out romantically between her and Orion. And then she runs out into the rain. Chloe sighs in frustration and chases after her friend. Jack finishes his talk with Orion by saying that while they cannot change history, he is going to make sure that they do not leave Orion on this planet alone. Marv and Eddie get to having their talk as Eddie opens up some. Marv says that Eddie can tell him anything. The two of them are best friends. Eddie says, sure, they were best friends. Then Marv's brother Joe showed up, and suddenly it's the brother she. That's cool. And then Chloe gets this awesome new battleizer, and now all of a sudden she's morphed all the time. And when she's not, she's having her girl talk moments with Vesper. And Marv and Jack used to be partners and have that connection. And basically everyone on this team has a connection except for Eddie, and he's worried he's going to be alone again. Marv says that they can all be better friends to each other because Eddie, the heart of their team, has gotten them all to open up. Eddie gets embarrassed about his outburst and starts trying to apologize for being selfish, but Marv's not going to let him back down from this. Eddie has a right to feel the way he feels, and he's right. Marv says he hasn't been a good friend to Eddie since Joe came back. Eddie, of course, says that the real issue here is Vesper. Since the issues have been going on between them, Eddie started to feel that it would be better to just bottle up all of his feelings, and of course that's not healthy. Andre actually pulls some method acting tears this time, but Eddie tries to pull it together and say that he's just going to focus eyes forward on the mission, and when everything's said and done, then he can let himself feel. Marv says that Joe may be his brother, but so is Eddie. I'm not crying, you're crying. Shut up! Orion gathers the guys around to reveal something important. He wants the girls to know as well, but they're still out in the rain. Marv says that he'll record this on his morpher to show them later. Orion explains that one day while mining, he found a powerful feeling box and a little silver man while mining for some quartz. He says that the box looks somewhat like the devices on their wrists. Eddie asks if he can see it, and he nails a lore check, so he can tell Orion anything he wants to know about this device, the legendary Silver Morpher. The Rangers explain to Orion what a Morpher is, how it makes you into a powerful armored warrior called a Power Ranger. Orion does understand this a little bit because he has used the Morpher once when the Armada invaded. Of course, he didn't do anything at the time, and that really bugged me, but of course leave it to Hyperforce to explain an explanation for a plot hole in the show's canon. Here, Orion says that the suit scared him and he demorphed immediately. Orion asks if they'd be able to use their powers together. They say, yes, however, his powers are very different to theirs. No spoilers, but history did record Orion as one of the greatest Rangers ever. And before you make a comment, please remember that that's referring to the actual history of the Power Rangers in the show's world, not the history of the TV show in our world. Chloe finds Vesper hiding from the rain in a turned-over minecart and sees her eyes deeply closed and concentrating as if she's searching through her programming. Chloe tells Vesper off for the whole, "Oh, I'm Vesper, and every boy has a crush on me. None of them can have me, but every boy just loves me" thing. Vesper is silly about it at first, but this is where we're working into the serious part, as I told you. She says that ever since she had her run-in with the Vengeance virus, she's felt damaged, literally broken, like something's messed up in her programming. She feels like her strange behavior has gone from quirky to starting to actually get crazy. She takes some time to think about the Vengeance virus and how she was infected immediately upon proximity, and it's just given her even more resolve that her plan to infect an Armada ship with the Vengeance virus is the right call. Chloe agrees wholeheartedly, but is sad to hear that her friend feels like she's kind of broken inside. Vesper says she's got her friends to support her, and besides, everyone's a little bit crazy, right? The girls start to head back to the cave, but before they get there, they see 3 Armada ships fly overhead. They call the guys, and everybody meets up outside, seeing the smoke trails of the ship heading towards the forest. So Orion leads them up out of the quarry and in that direction. They get a little bit confused about the action here, which is something that can happen, that just happens in RPGs. They see the 3 ships doing training maneuvers and come up with 2 different plans. Marv wants to wait for one of the ships to land and then quietly take out his pilot, then they've got 1 ship. Jack wants Chloe to jump on one of the ships and destroy it, literally take it down. The other 2 ships will come back to investigate and they can take both of those ships out. Then they have 2 ships. Marv thinks it's too risky, but Jack sees it as a 2-for-1. That way Orion gets his own ship and the Rangers get a ship to investigate and decide what they're going to do with. The problem here is that the ships never actually land and weren't going to. They do fly low, but then swoop right back up into the sky. So, even though the Rangers had defaulted to Marv's leadership and were going to follow his plan was never going to work in the first place, and he realizes that and goes with their plan. Eddie suggests that he and Chloe can do the water spout thing again, and he invites Orion to morph alongside them. Eddie and Chloe form their water spout, hitting one of the ships and throwing it back down to the beach where they all started. The other 2 ships turn around and head that way to investigate. The Rangers want to teleport to the beach so they get there first, but Alpha is still concerned about teleporting someone from the past, which is something that I don't actually get. I mean, they've never brought up the idea of a transporter malfunction that could kill somebody important from history, and teleporting is a thing that Rangers have been doing literally from the very beginning of the Rangers' recorded history. The Megaforce Rangers themselves teleported in their very first episode, and never again, which was another plot hole. Sure, Orion wasn't there, but I mean, it was something he was going to theoretically do. I don't get why them teleporting is such a big deal. Anyway, Jack points out that they haven't come that far and they're morphed. They're Power Rangers. So they can just bound right back over there quickly, and they do. The ships do still beat them there, but to their immense fortune, they just collect the pilot of the downed ship and leave, leaving the damaged ship on the beach. Though the Rangers realize that they better hurry because a repair crew might be coming for the ship later. Vesper gets inside the ship and interfaces with it, realizing that there's just some light physical damage on the outside and some wiring damage on the inside. She downloads the schematics of the ship at Marv's very intelligent request. The team then gets to work as their actors took a break. Vesper fixes the wiring inside while Eddie and Jack fix the 2 turbines on the outside. Vesper declares that this ship is just about ready to fly, so Marv pulls Orion aside for a little important chat. History cannot be changed, so Orion cannot tell anybody how he actually got his hands on this ship. He's going to have to make up his own cover story. Say, for example, he shot it down as it flew overhead. With a bow, Chloe says, with a bow like this one. Orion says, a bow? How about a slingshot? Marv says, yeah, like anyone's going to believe that. Vesper calls Eddie inside of the ship to help her with the final step of this plan. She's now ready to infect this ship with the Venjix virus. However, to do so, she has to release a lot of security firewalls and blocks on it, so she's not sure what's going to happen. And Eddie is the only person she trusts to take care of her if things get out of hand with Venjix. Eddie is kind of reluctant, but agrees, and Vesper hands over all of her weaponry to him. She then interfaces with the ship and inserts the virus. The virus goes into the ship's programming and starts incubating. Vesper disconnects from the ship, and she's just fine. Eddie congratulates her on controlling the Venjix virus. The 2 high-five, then they hug, then it gets awkward. And Andre literally said the words, and then it gets awkward. And it gets even more awkward when Marv and Chloe walk in and do that, whoa, sorry for interrupting, our bad, we'll leave, it's fine. Orion comes back and they thank each other for their help. Vesper even offers to give Burrito her dog, which, by the way, Alpha started calling Rito, and that helps clear up a lot of confusion, to Orion for company on the trip. However, of course, history didn't record a little Chihuahua dog leaping out of Orion's ship, so that's going to be a no. Orion takes off on his way for Earth, and the Hyperforce Rangers reboard their ship to check on the timeline. Alpha does report that there's been just a little tiny blip in the timeline scanner. It's probably nothing really important, just that energy readings around the legendary battle have increased by 100%. Yeah, the Alliance has shown up at the legendary battle. The Rangers realize they've got to get over there as well, jumping to Earth a few months later. They materialize directly in the middle of the Armada fleet, so of course they start getting attacked right away before they cloak the ship and duck out of the way. Their plan at first is to just observe the situation and see if history does unfold the way it's supposed to. They see Orion as well as Troy, who they don't know obviously, on a very familiar looking Armada ship crashing directly into the main Armada ship and the 2 heading inside. However, Alpha reports that there's a little bit of a problem with their plan. The Venjix virus is not spreading. The Armada has a firewall up. The Rangers realize that they have to get somebody inside that main Alliance ship to disable the firewall and allow the virus to spread. And Chloe is the obvious choice with her incredible stealth powers. However, Marv worries about her. #Cloven. And says that she should at least make sure to team up with Orion on the ship. However, Chloe is very resolute. History cannot be changed. She has to do this alone, and she has to be invisible. She jumps from the Hyperforce ship onto the main Armada ship and heads inside. We actually get a quick little scene role-played directly from the show as Troy and Orion fight Emperor Mavro, and Troy takes the controls of the main Alliance ship. Chloe finds an area with a lot of different wires and interfaces and heads over there. She finds a wire that can connect to her morpher, and Vesper transmits the virus through the morphers into the ship. I will say that most of us in the chat thought that transmitting Venjix through their morphers was an incredibly bad idea, but thus far, nothing came from it and it seemed to work. In fact, it works very well, very quickly, spreading through the ships right away, and things start blowing up. Seeing that Orion and Troy are in danger, Chloe activates her battleizer and says screw history, jumping directly in front of the two and telling them to get out of there now. Troy activates the weapons that shoot down a large majority of the Armada fleet. Now we can say that they were also compromised by the Venjix virus, and the three of them jump out. Chloe is teleported away as Orion quietly under his breath thanks his Hyperforce friends. He and Troy, of course, transform into Space Rangers and ride Galaxy Gliders to safety. We see Scorpina and Velkanos piloting Armada ships. However, Scorpina reports to the Alliance leader that these ships don't seem to work. It's like they have some kind of virus. None of the controls work. The leader screams in rage at the Hyperforce Rangers as those two are teleported away. Chloe took some decent damage from the explosions, her battleizer deactivating, and her kind of babbling on in a state of shock before nearly passing out, Eddie using a smelling burrito to bring her back to them. They observe as Emperor Mavro is defeated by the Super Megaforce Rangers, the massive X-Borg army attack, and the teams of Legendary Rangers showing up to help them. Eddie grabs Alpha by the shoulders and says, "Listen, forget about changing history. This is the single greatest Ranger battle of all time, and the Hyperforce Rangers need to be there." Alpha actually has a very surprising reply. They're going to need your help, and he teleports them down. Yes, heroes, the Hyperforce Rangers are participating in the legendary battle. Orion sees the team land, greets them, and then takes out 12 X-Borgs with his spear. 3 of the X-Borgs see Eddie taking pictures and decide to attack while he's distracted, but he punches them towards Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, and Turbo, those 3 teams taking them out. On his actual turn, Eddie sees 5 bruisers heading for Orion. He calls out, "Blue! Blue! Blue! Blue!" The blue Mighty Morphin, Zeo, In Space, and Super Megaforce Rangers join him, and they destroy the 5 bruisers in a blue streak. Meanwhile, Jack sees some of the X-Borgs harassing Cassie, the pink In Space Ranger. He bowls them over with his Ram Rush attack. Cassie gives him kind of a funny look, but then just gives him a high five. Marv thinks that he hears Dr. Oliver and decides to go over to help him. However, when he arrives, he only sees the Ninja Storm Rangers. That's weird. Confused, he fires some shots at the X-Borgs, but nearly hits Cam. Chloe sees the real Dr. Oliver, MMPR Green in this case, who sees them as well, remembers who they are, and knows that they definitely shouldn't be there. He starts shooing them away, waving them off. The Rangers go to leave, but some X-Borgs stop them. Chloe leg whips one into the other, destroying them both, then looks back at Tommy and asks if that was cool. His response is more, "Get out of here." Vesper starts babbling at Mighty Morphin Black, who at first they called Lost Galaxy Black until they realized that Lost Galaxy doesn't have a Black Ranger, unless you count the Magna Defender as a Ranger like I do, and his suit was mostly black, and the legendary battle was really confusing and hectic at the time, and it's even trickier to roleplay. But it was Mighty Morphin Black, as it turned out. He won't even answer which of the two he actually is, Zach or Adam. Vesper throws her disc at the grunt that he was fighting and starts to ask him if he was impressed, before she comes to a realization. The enemy herd is getting really thin, and the Hyperforce Rangers better not be visible when it's just Rangers on the battlefield. So, as the battle ends, they pull to the back of the group of Legendary Rangers as they congratulate the Super Megaforce Rangers on their victory. The Hyperforce Rangers even spot Jen, who doesn't see them, thankfully. Then they take a quick selfie with the Rangers all behind them before those Legendary Rangers ascend into heaven? Orion sees the Hyperforce Rangers and excuses himself from his own team, going over to them to thank them again for all of their help. Marv asks him if he'd like a ride back to Andrasia. At first he accepts, eager to help repair his planet, but then he changes his mind, saying that he needs more time to prepare for the trip, and he would like to spend some more time with his team here on Earth first. Marv notices that Troy left his sword sitting in the beach, and tries to claim it for himself, but Orion says that that should probably stay with them. They say their goodbyes, and Alpha teleports the Rangers back to the ship as the session ends. So this was another one of those sessions that was kind of light on the action and heavier on the talking. So I didn't like it as much as the others, right? Actually, no. This was a heavy plot, light action session that I actually really enjoyed. Maybe it was because Cameron Gibo got a chance to portray Orion again, especially in his dark, emotional time just after his planet had been attacked, and there were even less restrictions on what he could do and say in that case. It was definitely because of great character moments from Eddie and Vesper and their performances as well. And I thought Malika this week did perhaps her best job couching their story within the story of a particular season that they traveled to. This plot essentially takes place within 2 episodes of Super Megaforce and really stayed within those stories pretty well. Though I really did like the idea of not just fixing plot holes, but things that seemed absolutely ridiculous, this case by covering them up with cover stories. No, Orion did not take down a spaceship with a slingshot and a large rock. That was just the cover story he came up with to cover the help of the Hyperforce Rangers. Super, mega, it fit the bill. Legendary Assistance gets a 5 out of 5. But it still was not likely to compare to the action in the next session. I don't normally tease what happens in the next episode of Hyperforce, even though I can, because these reviews have been so far behind. But this is a point where I will definitely make an exception on that. Next time on Hyperforce, Malika moves to the players' table. Zach GMs the game. And another very special guest takes the Hyperforce Rangers into the shattered grid. That's going to wrap up another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Make sure to like the video by clicking that thumbs up button right down below. In the comments below, let me know what you thought about this session. I know that a lot of people, when they heard that the Rangers were heading to the Super Megaforce time, were no, don't acknowledge Super Megaforce. It was so terrible. We want to forget that it ever existed. Even if you felt that way, what do you think? Did they do a good job? Did they improve on what Super Megaforce gave us? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can see all of my videos, and ring that bell and get your notifications set up so you can get notified whenever I post brand new videos just like this Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. And if you really enjoyed this video and would like to give me even the smallest bit of financial support, you can head to digitaltipjar.com/OrangeRangerVid. Whatever lands in that little digital tip jar is something I greatly appreciate. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you, and go Hyperforce. Jack theorizes that the Alliance may say that the cover story. Yeah. Auxiliary Rangers, as I like to say. And Orion says that they just destroyed a large the Rangers want to teleport over there, but Eddie is still concerned. Oh gosh, I tried to read from the wrong take on the TV. We see Scorpina and Velkanos piloting Armada ships. Marv thinks that Vesper starts, even though Lost Galaxy doesn't have a Black Ranger, but like Malika said, the legendary farts. As that happens, they pull to the back of the crowd as the Legendary Rangers congratulate the Super Megaforce Rangers, and farts. As the Rangers ascend into heaven? Orion, oh wait, they didn't. Until they realize that Lost Galaxy doesn't have a Black Ranger, unless you count Magnum. That is going to do it for another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this episode. I know it's a session, too.